Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sun Moon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. There is a shore you've stood on many times without even realizing it. A shore where the sand is crowded, trampled, and stained with the same footprints of countless others. The waves crash in predictable rhythms, and everyone seems to be fighting for the same seashells, clutching them with white knuckles, afraid that if they let go, there will be nothing left. But far beyond that crowded beach lies another expanse, untouched and glistening with light, where the ocean is vast, open, and endlessly blue. No one is scrambling there. No one is fighting over scraps, because there is no scarcity. There is only possibility. And this is where the story of blue ocean strategy begins, not with the fear of running out, but with the quiet courage to sail where few have dared to go. W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne, the authors who brought this vision to life, are not just strategists in the cold corporate sense. Their voices carry the weight of curiosity and compassion for how human beings and businesses can rise beyond rivalry. They have spent years observing the patterns of companies, leaders, and movements that dared to break free from bloody competition. And they remind us, gently but firmly, that the world doesn't advance when we fight over the same small pond. It expands when someone dares to imagine an entirely different ocean. That is why this message matters, because it's not just about business. It's about daring to create a life and a future that is not defined by scarcity or fear. At its heart, Blue Ocean strategy is about the difference between what they call red oceans and blue oceans. Red oceans are where competition lives, markets that are crowded, bloody with rivalry, where everyone is fighting to outperform each other on the same terms. It is survival of the fittest, and even those who win often find themselves exhausted, their victory temporary, their margins shrinking. A red ocean is where your energy goes into defending territory rather than expanding possibility. But a blue ocean is different. It is wide open, unclaimed, a place where competition is irrelevant because you are no longer playing the same game. It is not about fighting for scraps, but about creating something so unique, so expansive, that you open up space for growth where no one else has looked. The ocean turns blue when you choose creation over competition, imagination over imitation. Think about Cirque du Soleil, one of the most famous examples in the book. In a world where traditional circuses were declining, fighting over dwindling audiences, Cirque did not try to compete on the same terms: bigger animals, cheaper tickets, louder acts. Instead, they reinvented what a circus could be by merging the artistry of theater, the grace of ballet, and the wonder of acrobatics. They created a blue ocean where no one else was swimming, and in doing so, they didn't just survive, they thrived. This is the heartbeat of the idea. Stop fighting over the old seashells and dare to discover the treasures that lie beyond the horizon. And yet, this is not just about companies with grand stages and millions in funding. This is about you, listening now, wondering quietly what it means for your own journey. Because every life, too, can become trapped in red oceans. Perhaps you've been competing for recognition in your career, trying to prove yourself in an environment where everyone else is sprinting in the same direction. Perhaps you've been chasing validation in ways that leave you drained, comparing yourself endlessly, playing a game that never feels winnable. The red ocean whispers that if you just try harder, fight longer, push deeper, you will win. But the truth is, no matter how hard you fight, there is no peace in those waters. The invitation of a blue ocean is to step back, to ask, what if I stopped competing on their terms? What if I created on my own? One of the most powerful lessons Kim and Mauborgne share is that blue oceans are not discovered. They are created. They are born when we shift our focus from what already exists to what could exist. They come alive when we reframe the question from, how do I win? To how do I make the game irrelevant? Imagine a restaurant that no longer tries to outdo others with slightly cheaper prices or marginally better service, but instead reimagines dining itself, offering an experience so unique it attracts people who weren't even looking for a restaurant that night. Imagine a musician who stops chasing the charts instead blending sounds no one thought to combine, opening hearts to music that feels entirely new. The blue ocean does not wait for permission. It appears the moment someone dares to imagine. There is something deeply liberating in this, because so often, the stories we are told are about scarcity. There are only so many seats at the table, so many spots on the stage, so many dollars to be earned, so many prizes to be won. But Blue Ocean strategy reminds us that life is not a fixed pie. The pie grows when someone changes the recipe. The ocean expands when someone stops clinging to the shore. And in that expansion, there is enough for everyone. Stop fighting over scraps. Start creating space. This is one of the mantras worth repeating. A quiet reminder that you do not have to exhaust yourself fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. I remember once sitting at a small cafe, watching two street musicians on opposite corners. One of them played the same old songs everyone knew, competing with the noise of the city, straining his voice to be heard over the crowd. People passed him by, barely noticing. Across the street, another musician did something different. He had built an instrument out of scraps of wood and metal, something no one had seen before, and the sound it made was haunting, beautiful, unfamiliar. People stopped. They listened. They smiled. He wasn't competing for attention. He had created something that made competition irrelevant. In that moment, I realized the power of a blue ocean is not only for businesses, but for every soul who chooses to create rather than compare. For you, who are listening now, there may be a part of you that feels weary of the fight. Perhaps you've been chasing benchmarks, living in a sea of comparisons, trying to measure up. Let this be a gentle invitation. What if you stopped? What if you shifted your gaze from what everyone else is doing to what only you can create? Because somewhere within you lies an ocean that has not yet been touched, a song, an idea, a way of living that does not need to compete to matter. The blue ocean is not far away. It is as close as the courage to imagine. The brilliance of Kim and Mauborgne's vision is that they don't just ask you to dream. They offer a map for how to sail into those uncharted waters. They call it value innovation, the idea that true breakthroughs happen when you increase value for people while simultaneously lowering cost, breaking the trade-off that so many accept as inevitable. Most strategies are built on compromise. You can either deliver more and charge more, or cut costs and deliver less. But a blue ocean breaks that logic. It says, what if you could give more of what truly matters, while cutting away the things that never mattered as much as we believed? It's like pruning a tree, not to shrink it, but to give it space to bloom bigger and brighter. By eliminating what drains value and amplifying what gives joy, you create a fresh landscape where others cannot follow because they are still tangled in the old branches. Think of Southwest Airlines in its early years. While other airlines competed on luxury, meals, and status, Southwest stripped away those extras and focused on what mattered most to a huge group of people: affordable, reliable travel with a touch of fun. They didn't fight to win the old market. They built a new one. And in doing so, they opened the skies to people who had never flown before. They created new demand rather than fighting for existing demand. That is the essence of a blue ocean. It's not about luring away competitors' customers. It's about awakening new customers who had been invisible in the old game. And that speaks to something tender inside all of us, the awareness that sometimes the lives we are competing for are not even the ones we want. We fight for promotions that don't feed our soul. We fight for recognition in spaces that don't honor our gifts. We fight for love in ways that leave us empty. But what if, instead, we shifted? Or what if we asked, what are the things in my life that drain me but don't really serve me? What are the things I could eliminate, freeing space to amplify what matters most? The blue ocean of your life is born when you dare to prune away what no longer holds value and pour your heart into what does. Another profound lesson of this work is the courage to challenge assumptions. Most red oceans are filled with unspoken rules. This is how the game is played. These are the standards. This is what customers want. This is how success is measured. But the blue ocean thinker asks, what if that isn't true? What if those rules are illusions? Nintendo did this with the Wii. While other console makers fought over better graphics and more powerful processors, Nintendo asked, What if gaming wasn't just for hardcore players? What if entire families could play together, grandparents and children, not through complexity, but through simplicity and movement? By refusing to accept the assumption that gamers wanted only higher specs, they opened a whole new world of demand. That is the quiet bravery of a blue ocean, the willingness to question what everyone else takes for granted. You too can ask these questions. What rules in your own life have you accepted without even realizing it? That success means constant hustle? That worth is proven through comparison? That you have to choose between meaning and stability? Sometimes the rules we follow are invisible cages, and the only way to step into new waters is to question them. The moment you do, the ocean begins to expand. You discover that the limits were never real. They were painted walls on a wide open horizon. But stepping into a blue ocean is not only about questioning, it is also about creating frameworks that guide you. Kim and Mauborgne talk about the strategy canvas, a simple but profound tool that asks you to map out where the energy of a market is currently spent and then visualize where you might diverge. It is not a sterile chart, it is a mirror. It reveals the ways in which everyone is clustering around the same points, competing on the same dimensions, and it invites you to break away. Imagine plotting your own life on such a canvas. Where have you been pouring your energy in the same directions as everyone else, competing endlessly? And what would it look like if you drew a new line, daring to invest in a space that feels more true, more expansive, more alive? This is the art of painting your own ocean. There is also a gentleness in the reminder that blue oceans are not once-in-a-lifetime events. They are not reserved only for visionaries in boardrooms or entrepreneurs with millions in funding. They are choices available every day in small and quiet ways. A teacher who decides to stop competing with the test-driven system and instead designs a classroom where creativity flourishes is sailing into a blue ocean. An artist who stops mimicking trends and finds a voice so distinct it awakens something in others is creating a blue ocean. Even a parent who reimagines family rituals, moving away from routines that drain everyone into ones that bring connection and joy, is shaping a blue ocean. These choices matter because they ripple outward, changing not only the life of the chooser, but the lives of everyone they touch. And yet, the truth must be spoken. The choice to sail into a blue ocean is not always easy. It asks for faith when the shore is far behind you, and the horizon seems endless. It asks for courage when others say you are foolish for leaving the crowded known waters. It asks for resilience when the first attempts are shaky, when the ocean feels too vast and uncertain. This is where the midpoint of the journey often comes, the place where doubt creeps in and the heart grows heavy. Perhaps you know that feeling well, the sense of being caught between who you have been and who you long to become, between the safety of the old waters and the mystery of the new. It can feel lonely, like you are adrift. But let me tell you this, you are not alone. Every great shift, every profound creation passes through this sea of uncertainty, and it is precisely in that uncertainty that the possibility of transformation is born. So take a breath here. Let this be an emotional pause, a reminder that it is okay to feel the weight of not knowing. It is okay to wonder if you can do it, if the risk is worth it, if you will find your way. Because the truth is, no one who has ever created a blue ocean was certain in the beginning. What they had was not certainty, but vision, not guarantees, but courage. And you, too, have that within you. The blue ocean is not a promise of ease, but it is a promise of freedom. Freedom from the endless fight. Freedom from the narrow walls of competition. Freedom to create a life that feels like your own. And as you breathe into that space, there comes another layer of wisdom from Kim and Mauborgne's work. The idea that demand is not fixed. We often live with the belief that the number of people interested in what we offer, or the number of opportunities available to us, is a small, rigid pool we must fight over. But the blue ocean perspective flips that belief on its head. Demand is not something waiting for us to seize. It is something we can unlock by reaching beyond the obvious, by serving those who have been overlooked, ignored, or underestimated. Think of how Apple reimagined the music industry with the iPod and iTunes. Instead of fighting over the shrinking market of physical CDs, they asked, what if we made digital music accessible, simple, and beautiful for everyone? They didn't steal demand. They created it. They opened the door to people who had never thought of themselves as part of the old market. In doing so, they didn't just sail into a blue ocean, they created an entirely new sea. This same truth whispers to you. Perhaps the opportunities you seek seem limited because you've been looking in the same places as everyone else. But there are people, spaces, and needs waiting just beyond the edge of your familiar vision. There are lives you can touch, contributions you can make, relationships you can nurture that do not yet exist because you haven't yet dared to imagine them. The world's hunger is wider than we believe, and when you align with it, the ocean unfolds. The book also reminds us that creating a blue ocean is not about reckless dreaming. It is about disciplined imagination. Kim and Mauborgne introduced the 4 actions framework: eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. Ask yourself, what can be eliminated that the world has outgrown? What can be reduced because it has been overvalued? What can be raised because it truly matters more than anyone has acknowledged? And what can be created that has never existed before? This is not just a business exercise, it is a life exercise. Imagine applying it to your own journey. Perhaps you eliminate the need to constantly prove yourself. Perhaps you reduce the time spent comparing your path with others. Perhaps you raise the moments of presence, creativity, and kindness. And perhaps you create new rituals, new expressions, new ways of being that reflect the truth of who you are. This is how oceans turn blue, not in theory, but in practice. What makes these ideas so moving is that they are not confined to the boardrooms of corporations. They pulse with humanity, because every great shift in history, every invention, every movement, every piece of art that changed us was born when someone chose to stop competing and instead create. The Wright brothers did not try to build a faster bicycle. They created flight. Martin Luther King Jr. did not try to outshout other voices in the same conversation. He created an entirely new narrative of justice and possibility. Greatness has always been about oceans turning blue. And perhaps you are listening now, wondering quietly, can I really do this? Can I truly step out of the waters I know and into something uncharted? That question carries both fear and longing. But let me tell you, the longing is there for a reason. It is your compass. It is the whisper of your own blue ocean calling you forward. You don't have to leap all at once. You don't have to abandon everything. You simply have to begin asking different questions, making small but intentional choices that open up new space. Every shift begins with a single stroke of the oar. There is something else that Kim and Mauborgne emphasize, something vital. Blue oceans are not about being better, they are about being different. Better still ties you to the same frame, measuring yourself against the competition. Different frees you. Different allows you to break away entirely. Consider Starbucks in its early days. They did not aim to make slightly better coffee than other chains. They created a third place between home and work, a space of community, identity, and experience. They redefined what coffee meant, and in that difference, they built oceans of blue. That is the key. You don't have to be the best at their game. You have to create your own. Let that sink in. You don't have to be the best at their game. How often have you exhausted yourself trying to climb ladders that were never yours? Racing in lanes that do not belong to you? Measuring yourself against standards that do not reflect your soul? The exhaustion is real because you are playing someone else's game. But the moment you step out, the moment you say, I will not try to be better at what drains me, I will choose instead to be different in what lights me up in that moment, you have already begun to create your blue ocean. That is the power of difference. And yes, it takes courage. It takes a willingness to be misunderstood, at least for a while. Many of the examples in the book faced skepticism at first. Cirque du Soleil was told that adults would never pay theater prices for a circus. Nintendo was told casual gamers would never matter. Apple was told music labels would never agree to iTunes. And yet, they did it anyway. They believed not only in their vision, but in the deeper truth that people are hungry for new value, even if they don't yet have the words to ask for it. And so, they built what had never been built before. You too will face moments where others cannot yet see what you see. But if your vision is rooted in creating value that awakens, delights, or heals, then the ocean will open. And let me remind you, gently but clearly, stop fighting over scraps. Start creating space. Say it with me again, stop fighting over scraps. Start creating space. This mantra is not just about business. It is about your life. It is about choosing to step out of the fray, to release the need to constantly measure, to open yourself to the vastness that is waiting beyond the shore. You do not have to compete endlessly for what is scarce. You can create endlessly what is abundant. That shift, that surrender, that choice, it is the beginning of freedom. And as you hold on to that mantra, another truth unfolds. That strategy is not just about thinking, it is about timing. Kim and Mauborgne remind us that blue oceans are born in alignment with waves of change, with shifts in technology, culture, or behavior that open space for something new. Timing is not about waiting passively, but about noticing patterns others overlook. Think of how Uber emerged, not simply because people disliked taxis, but because smartphones had just become widespread enough to make ride-hailing seamless. Think of Netflix, which thrived not only because people loved movies, but because internet speeds had just reached a point where streaming became effortless. Blue oceans are not created in a vacuum. They bloom in the cracks of transformation. The ones who notice those cracks, who lean in rather than cling to the old, are the ones who sail first into the wide expanse. But what does that mean for you, sitting here with your own quiet dreams? It means noticing your own tides. It means listening closely to the subtle shifts in your life, the places where your energy no longer feels at home, the spaces where something new is stirring. Maybe it's a longing to create in a way you've never allowed yourself before. Maybe it's the awareness that the career or path you've been chasing no longer fits, and the world is whispering for reinvention. Maybe it's the relationships you nurture, realizing that the old rhythms are falling away and new ones are asking to be born. Your life, too, has tides, and the blue ocean opens when you honor them instead of resisting. It is not about rushing. It is about noticing, aligning, and then daring to step when the moment feels right. Another layer of this journey is the courage to execute. Kim and Mauborgne emphasize that a strategy without action is only a dream. And execution, they remind us, is not about brute force, but about clarity, trust, and commitment. It means aligning your resources, your energy, your people, whether that means your team at work or simply the inner parts of yourself around the vision you are building. It means removing the obstacles that sap momentum, building trust so others believe in the path, and committing not just when it is easy, but when it is hard. And here's the gentle truth. The greatest obstacle to execution is often not the world outside, but the voices within. Doubt, fear, the old stories of limitation, these are the real competitors. And the way to overcome them is not through denial, but through compassion. To say, yes, I hear you, fear, but I will still move. Yes, I see you, doubt, but I will still create. Execution is not about perfection, it is about persistence. Think of J.K. Rowling before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. She was rejected by publisher after publisher, told there was no market for her story. The red ocean told her she was wasting her time. But she persisted, not because she was certain of success, but because she could not silence the story within her. That persistence turned into a blue ocean that transformed literature for generations. Execution is rarely about immediate applause. It is about faithfulness to the vision, stroke after stroke, until the ocean opens. For you, this may mean committing to a project even when no one notices yet. It may mean carving out time in your week to nurture an idea that feels fragile but alive. It may mean setting boundaries with the red ocean demands of your life so you can preserve energy for the creation of something new. Execution is not glamorous, but it is sacred. It is how dreams breathe into form. And through all of this, There is an anchor that Kim and Mauborgne return to again and again: the human heart. Strategies succeed not when they manipulate, but when they resonate. A blue ocean is created when people feel seen, when their unspoken needs are met, when they encounter something that awakens joy, freedom, or possibility. This is why Cirque du Soleil drew crowds not because it was cheaper, not because it was louder, but because it touched something deeper. This is why Apple inspired loyalty not because it sold gadgets, but because it made people feel creative and empowered. The ocean turns blue not through cleverness, but through connection. And this, dear listener, is where your own power lies. When you create from a place of deep listening, when you ask not just what you want to offer, but what others long to feel, you move beyond competition. You enter the realm of resonance, and in that space, oceans expand. And now, let us return to you, here and now, listening with your own quiet hunger. Perhaps there is a stirring inside you, a whisper of a vision that feels impossible, yet persistent. Perhaps you've been living in red oceans for too long, fighting battles that leave you weary. What if you gave yourself permission to step away? What if you allowed yourself to believe that something different is possible? Stop fighting over scraps. Start creating space. This is not just a mantra, it is a lifeline. It is the gentle reminder that you are not made only to survive the crowded waters. You are made to create new seas. So here is the small, intimate invitation. Begin by asking yourself one question today. What is one place in my life where I am competing but not creating? It could be in your work, in your relationships, in your art, even in the way you treat yourself. Find one place where the fight feels exhausting, and instead of asking how to win, ask, how can I create something different? Let that question be the seed. Let it grow slowly, quietly, until it becomes a tree shading you in new possibilities. You don't have to see the entire ocean today. You just have to take the first step toward it. And as we come to the close of this reflection, let me leave you with a picture. Imagine the dawn. The sky is still dark, the world still quiet, and then slowly, almost imperceptibly, light begins to spill across the horizon. At first, it is only a hint of color, then a blush of warmth, then the full glory of sunrise. This is what your blue ocean can be: not an explosion, not a sudden shift, but a gradual unfolding of light that transforms the entire landscape. The ocean is waiting. The sunrise is near. The choice is yours. If this message touched you, if it awakened something within, I invite you to carry it forward. Like, share, comment, and subscribe so that others may find these waters too. Share your own reflections, your stories of red oceans, and your dreams of blue ones. Your voice matters, your experience matters, and together we can remind each other that there is always more ocean, always more light, always more possibility.